In this episode of The Primer, we talk about emergence of the Dogra state of Jammu and Kashmir as cultural and economic bridge between Central and South Asia in the second half of 19th century.
Ranbir Singh and the High Roads of Asia. In the second half of the 19th century, as steamships crossed oceans and railways bound the plains of India, the mountains of Central Asia were being rediscovered. Among the rulers who recognized the value of the old overland trade routes was Maharaja Ranbir Singh of Jammu and Kashmir. During his long reign from 1856 to 1885, he oversaw the revival of trans-Himalayan trade that had for centuries connected Kashmir, Ladakh and Tibet with Yarkand and Kashgar in Central Asia. The reopening of these routes was not an act of nostalgia. It was a deliberate policy that reflected Ranbir Singh's understanding of geography as strategy. His state occupied the critical middle ground between British India and the caravan economies of Xinjiang and Tibet. The revival of trade thus served multiple purposes. It strengthened the state's economy, reinforced sovereignty in the frontier regions, and provided a measure of insulation in the shadow of the great game between Britain and Russia. The main artery of this trade began from Srinagar, ascended the passes of Sonamarg and Zojila, crossed Leh in Ladakh, and then wound northward over the Karakoram and Kilik passes into Yarkand and Kashgar. From there, caravans travelled to Khotan, Samarkand and beyond. A second branch turned eastward toward Tibet, carrying salt, wool and tea. Under Ranbir Singh, these routes were revived, repaired and secured by Dogra garrisons and revenue officials posted in Leh, Kargil, Skardu and Gilgit. The scale of commerce was remarkable for a mountain kingdom. Each year, hundreds of laden animals, yaks, ponies and camels, traversed the passes carrying pashmina wool, shawls, dried fruit, silk and turquoise on the outward journey, returning with cotton cloth, sugar, and manufactured goods from the Indian plains. The Kashmiri shawl trade in particular flourished under state regulation, exporting fine textiles as far as Russia and Europe. Ranbir Singh's administration treated these routes as arteries of both commerce and communication. He issued permits for caravans, maintained rest houses and custom stations, and encouraged Kashmiri and Ladakhi merchants to venture as far as Yarkand and Kashgar. When explorers and envoys like Robert Shaw, George Hayward, and Thomas Forsyth passed through these same routes in the 1860s and 1870s, they travelled under Dogra protection. A subtle assertion that the northern highways remained part of the Maharaja's domain, the reopening of trade also had a cultural dimension. Through Ladakh and Baltistan, Kashmir reconnected with the larger world of Central Asian Islam and Tibetan Buddhism. Markets in Leh and Srinagar echoed with Turkic, Persian and Tibetan tongues. Merchants carried not just goods but ideas, languages and artistic influences that enriched the region's composite culture. By the end of Ranbir Singh's reign, these ancient high roads had regained their vitality, turning the Dogra state into a bridge between South and Central Asia at a time when empire and exploration were reshaping the continent. The trade would eventually decline with the closure of the passes after 1947. But in the late 19th century, under the cautious and visionary Maharaja, Jammu and Kashmir briefly reclaimed its place as the crossroads of Asia, a meeting point of commerce, culture and diplomacy.
Thanks for watching this episode of Primer on Jammu and Kashmir. Here is a quick note from the editors of the Dispatch. While dealing with historical events, we are conscious of the fact that history has no single view. In places like Jammu and Kashmir, this can be more complicated. While explaining the events of history through this primer, we are taking the best possible care to be objective and to offer context wherever views differ starkly. We welcome you to write to us and enriched the knowledge base on Jammu and Kashmir.